Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Project Gaia. Today we are in Charleston, South Carolina. Now this is a fascinating destination. If you're a history lover, you're going to really love Charleston. I mean, the whole city is just filled with these candy-colored colonial style buildings, right? And it's just a fascinating region too. It really encapsulates the Old South, right? So what we're going to do on this tour is I'm going to show you the best things to do and see while you're here in Charleston, and we're going to go all over. We're going to see plantations, historic architecture. We're going to go inside some of the mansions. We're going to go into market, and I'm going to make an itinerary for you so that you maximize your time while you're here visiting this amazingly beautiful and historic city. So let's begin. So where we're going now is something called Angel Oak Tree. Now, what's so special about a tree? Well, this is an amazingly beautiful live oak tree, and it's considered to be about 400 to 500 years old. And it's often considered one of the oldest trees still in existence in the eastern United States. And it is just an amazing place to visit when you're here in Charleston. I mean, its limbs spread over 17,000 square feet, and it's at about 65 feet tall. It is just truly beautiful. Now, it's called Angel Oak because it's named after its previous inhabitants from about the 18th century. Their last name was Angel, and folklore suggests that the souls of previously enslaved people dance around the tree at night. So it's very beautiful, very interesting, and a bit mysterious as well. In the quiet shadows just outside Charleston, South Carolina, stands a giant that has weathered more than 4 centuries of storms, wars, and whispered legends. The Angel Oak Tree, a southern titan of twisted limbs and ancient bark, stretches its arms across 17,000 square feet as if cradling the weight of time itself. Estimated to be over 400 years old, this live oak isn't just a tree. It's a monument to endurance rooted deep in the sacred lowcountry soil. Beneath its canopy, you don't just feel small, you feel connected to something older, something eternal. Now, in my opinion, a must-do when you're here in Charleston is to visit the Mcleod Plantation. Now, we're going to visit a couple plantations on this tour, but this one is very special because it really tells the dark history of slavery here in South Carolina, right? So you go through the grounds. The grounds, let me tell you, are absolutely beautiful. I mean, it is just adorned with these amazingly beautiful live oaks with the Spanish moss, and it's all headed by a main plantation house, right? So there are guided tours. You can go on a guided tour. It's about an hour long, and I highly recommend you do so because you learn so much more about the story of this place from the guided tour. But if you're in a rush, you don't have to, but I highly recommend you do that. It's included in the ticket. It's $20 to get in, but it's well worth it. So along this tour, we're going to learn a little bit about the house, the family, so the owners, the plantation owners, the slaves and their story. We're going to see the cabins they lived in, as well as understand a little bit about how cotton production worked in South Carolina under the labor of an enslaved population. Mcleod Plantation, established in 1851, sits just beyond the heart of Charleston, a 37-acre stretch of land steeped in beauty, blood, and the brutal truth of American history. This was no simple estate. It was a machine of wealth powered by the hands and hearts of enslaved men, women, and children who cultivated its cotton and built its legacy from the ground up. Walk the grounds and you'll find the preserved slave quarters, humble, weathered cabins standing in solemn silence. These structures aren't just remnants, they are witnesses. They hold the stories of survival, resistance, and resilience that textbooks too often overlook. At the center rises the plantation house. Whitewashed and still, once a symbol of Southern gentility, but today it stands not as a monument to wealth, but as a reminder that behind every pillar of elegance stood lives unpaid and unheard. And as the moss sways from the ancient oaks and the sun filters through time-worn branches, you realize this land doesn't just remember history, it really breathes it. Now, one of Charleston's most iconic landmarks is actually a series of buildings. It's kind of a block front. It's called Rainbow Row. And what this is basically a series of 13 different colored houses. So there's like a bright blue one, there's a bright pink one, there's a green one, and it's one of the most photographed and Instagrammable places in Charleston. So it truly is beautiful. It's kind of right in the center of the town, right near the waterfront. Very popular for weddings, proms, all kinds of photography like that. But I encourage you to walk through it, admire the beauty of these brightly colored buildings. And, you know, the architecture and the history, these date back to about the 18th century. And, you know, they were merchants' house, basically. So they weren't anything special back in the day. They were homes for people who worked in and around the docks, which is where we are. And then they fell into disrepair in the 1930s and 1940s. But after that, they were restored. And now they're one of Charleston's most beautiful landmarks. Walking through historic Charleston is like stepping through a living storybook. Cobblestone beneath your feet, gas lamps flickering overhead, and centuries of Southern grit and grace etched into every brick and balcony. Now, one thing you have to do when you're in the downtown Charleston area is check out something called the Joe Riley Waterfront Park. Now, this park is located right on the water, so, you know, if you got tired of, you know, walking around and, you know, I'm here in March, early March, so it's not too bad, but if you're here in the dead of summer, it's a way to cool off. You know, there's trees, you walk all along the park, and there's a lot of really good street life. So I recommend coming here, take a little break, look out into the ocean before you head back in and, you know, look at the architecture, get something to eat, get a drink. Now, if you're an architecture lover, you're going to absolutely love Charleston's architecture, especially in the area around Rainbow Row. Now, it is filled, and I mean filled, with colonial style architecture, mostly dating from the 17th, 18th, and early 19th centuries. Now, it has that kind of old world vibe with the alley-like streets and close together buildings. After all, you know, this was a neighborhood that was created before the advent of the automobile, right? So, you know, in the streets it would either be just people walking, pedestrians, or horses and carriages. So it kind of has that almost European vibe, right? So this is the historic center of Charleston. Now, go through here. This parking's not easy to find around here if you're driving. It's pretty much residential only, but if you go a couple blocks away, you'll find a spot. And I'm telling you, this area is an architecture and history buff's dream. I mean, everywhere you look, it's just these amazingly preserved townhomes with, you know, flower pots and the window shutters all over the place. I mean, it truly is inspiring, and, you know, artists would love it too. I mean, it's an amazing place to paint or draw, and you will truly be inspired by Charleston's architecture near and around Rainbow Row. Rolling through historic Charleston feels like walking through time itself. The scent of jasmine rides the breeze. Iron gates guard stories untold, and every brick-lined street echoes with the footsteps of patriots, poets, and the enslaved. It's a city built on contrast, beauty and pain, charm and struggle, where the past lingers in the shade of moss-draped oaks, refusing to be forgotten. So one thing that you should for sure check out when you're here in Charleston is the Charleston City Market, and that's behind me where we are now. It's in this historic building, and it's one of the oldest markets in the United States. So it's filled with a bunch of cool stuff. I mean, some touristy stuff too, but there's, you know, artisan foods, artisan crafts. You can get a cool souvenir from here, so it's definitely something to check out, and it's very large too. It's free to get in, but you're probably going to spend some money while you're in there. So let's head in. The Charleston Market has stood for over 2 centuries. Once a hub for trade, now a tapestry of Southern craft and culture. Beneath its old wooden beams, history hums between handmade goods and time-worn stone, and it's definitely something to explore for an afternoon. Now, an incredibly interesting historic site that you should see when you're here in Charleston is the Provost Dungeon and Old Exchange, which is this large building behind me. So it was built in 1771, 5 years before America was America, right? This was a colony of the British. And it holds an amazing history, a lot of Revolutionary War stuff. The British actually occupied this building during the 1780s when they occupied Charleston. And you go in, there's a museum, and there's a haunted dungeon as well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna head inside and learn a little bit about this building's fascinating history and why it's such an important piece of Charleston history. Above ground, the Old Exchange and Provost building once served as Charleston's State House, where revolution brewed and the weight of a new nation took root. Built in 1771, its grand halls welcomed patriots, governors, and merchants alike, shaping the future of the colonies with every echoing step. But beneath the stone floor lies the Provost Dungeon, a dark, damp chamber that once held pirates, prisoners of war, and those who dared to defy empire. Shackles clanged in silence, and rebellion whispered through the cold brick walls. So I have to say, one of the best things to do in Charleston simply is walking around, right? You will just be in awe from all of the amazingly colorful colonial architecture, coupled with, you know, this subtropical vegetation. It truly is beautiful. It's a very interesting sight to see. You see some of this stuff in, like, you know, the East Coast and New England, but it doesn't have that, you know, subtropical vegetation, so it gives it an added element of just mystique and intrigue. So how I recommend you do this, you do not need a car in Charleston. You know, a lot of the stuff is centered, unless you plan on going to, like, the plantations, some of the other outlying museums. If you want to go to the beach, then you need a car, I would say. But if you are dropped right in the center of Charleston, I mean, it's a very walkable city. You do not need a car. If you do have a car, however, what I recommend you do is park, in the center, in the downtown area, near the French Quarter, or the center, kind of by the dungeon. Park over there. It's about $20 a day, but just leave your car there and then just do this all by foot, because it truly is beautiful. And when you're in your car, you're watching for traffic, you're driving, watching for pedestrians, and there are a lot of pedestrians around here. So you're not really getting to have that experience where you get up into the streets and really see and experience the architecture and the amazingly built colonial vibe of this whole place. So definitely walk around, park your car, and just explore. After touring Charleston all day, looking at the beautiful colonial mansions and kind of peering through their windows, looking into their gardens, you're probably interested what the inside of one of these looks like, right? So for that, you can come to the Nathaniel Russell House, which is behind me. So this house was built in the early 1800s, and it is architecturally fascinating. It truly is beautiful and has some of the most grand rooms I've ever seen, and an amazing staircase, as well as a beautiful garden. So what this helps you to do is kind of understand how much wealth these people had in the early days of the United States. And you learn all about the family. So Nathaniel Russell, whom the house is named after, his family, and 18 enslaved people live here. So you can get an audio tour or a fully guided tour, and you learn all about their story and how, each room was part of the family and the enslaved people's lives. The Nathaniel Russell House rises from Charleston's historic district like a polished gem of the antebellum South. Built in 1808 by a wealthy merchant, this federal-style mansion was a statement of power, taste, and status. But it's the free-floating spiral staircase, climbing 3 stories without support, that steals your breath. Yet behind the grandeur lies a harsher truth. Enslaved men and women built and maintained this beauty, their lives confined to hidden quarters, their labor unseen by the marble and mahogany. Today, the house stands preserved not just in elegance, but in honesty, a reminder that even the most graceful walls can cast heavy shadows, and history, if told right, leaves nothing hidden. If you're into shopping, Charleston is a fantastic destination for you, particularly if you're into kind of boutique shopping. I've really seen it kind of littered throughout the entire city, but I've noticed that there is an extreme concentration of boutique women's clothes, men's clothes, art galleries, kind of artists and crafts, all that kind of stuff along King Street, which is what we're on now, in the French Quarter section. So, if you come here and you like to shop, you might do some damage. King Street is Charleston's spine, a stretch where history and commerce have danced for over 200 years. Once a colonial trade route, now a parade of high-end shops, antique stores, and southern charm, cobblestones meet couture, and every storefront holds a story stitched into the fabric of this timeless city. Now, if you're asking me to rate the most beautiful neighborhood in Charleston, that's going to be hard to do because they're all very beautiful and they're all very unique in their own way. But one that really stands out to me, I would say, is called the French Quarter. Now, it has the beautiful tall palm trees, the colonial architecture everywhere, beautiful mansions, lots of really nice stores and restaurants, and it really is something that you should see when you are here. Now, this is kind of this is in downtown Charleston, kind of in the north central part, not too far from the Provost dungeon. So definitely check out the French Quarter when you're here, because this is one of the most interesting and beautiful neighborhoods in Charleston. If you're looking for dining options in Charleston, you are not going to be disappointed. There are literally restaurants everywhere, every kind of cuisine, outdoor dining, indoor dining, beautiful restaurants, calm, chill restaurants. But I was looking for one that really kind of encapsulated that southern vibe, that southern feel. So I asked around a little bit and I was told to go to this place, Poogan's Porch. So what's great about it is in this historic home, right, complete with, you know, that old southern style front porch, right? You could sit outside if you want, and then the inside is amazing too. But what I hear is that it is very authentic southern style food, and it's right here in the French Quarter district on Queen Street. So definitely check this out. Let's head in because I'm hungry now. So after showing you guys Charleston all day, I've worked up quite a bit of an appetite, and thank God I'm in a southern restaurant because they give you a lot of food and it's fried and it's good and it's that comfort food, right? So what I decided to get was these pork dumpling type things. I forget the name of them, but it's a southern specialty as an appetizer. I got that first. And then I got Poogan's Porch famous fried chicken, right? So it comes with like 4 pieces of chicken and some rice and some beef. So it really kind of encapsulates that southern style comfort food. But it's not a divey place at all. This is a nice place. I came with a hat before and I definitely had to take it off. So this is kind of a nicer place, just so you know that. But the food has been fantastic so far, and I really recommend this place. So something that's a little bit off the beaten path in Charleston, but is definitely worth a visit, is where we are now. This is Boone Hall Plantation and Gardens. Now, this is a working plantation. It's still a farm, still produces crops, and it was established in as early as the 1680s, guys. So it's almost a full 100 years earlier than the founding of America. And it's just this beautiful plantation with absolutely gorgeous grounds. We're on what's called the Oak Avenue right now, so you can see along here there's all these beautiful live oaks, and it's one of the most photographed and Instagrammable places to go in Charleston. And they have tons of things you can do here. Not only is the avenue of the live oaks absolutely stunning, but they also have stables, so they have horses, and there's like a stable tour. They have something called a gullah presentation. If you're not familiar, gullah is the culture of the enslaved people of the South during the colonial era. And they also have a mansion tour, and the mansion's cool too, and you can just go all around it and learn all about how this plantation worked, both in the past and today. So let's explore. As you enter Boone Hall, you will be greeted by the Avenue of Oaks, which really is a passage through time. Nearly a mile of towering live oaks planted in 1743, their branches arched like cathedral ceilings draped in Spanish moss. These silent giants have watched centuries pass, from the rise of plantation wealth to the cries for freedom that echoed beneath their shade. Rooted deep in South Carolina soil, they form more than a road. They form a monument, a living, breathing colonnade that humbles you with its beauty and history. Drive beneath them, and you don't just arrive, you're transported. Then as you continue through Boone Hall, you will see some of the most beautiful plantation style architecture you will ever see. It really looks like something out of a movie. One thing that you should check out when you're here in Boone Hall are these slave cabins. Now there are 9 slave cabins, and they were created in the late 1700s to early 1800s from actual raw materials that were found on the property. And it's kind of a museum now. They've preserved the actual buildings, but within each cabin it tells the story of, you know, the enslaved peoples and, you know, how they lived and all of that. Another thing that's interesting is even after the Civil War, when the slaves were freed, these cabins remained rentals for African Americans living on the property, so well into the 20th century. So it has a fascinating history, and it really kind of helps you learn the story of slavery and the black population working on this plantation. So in one of the cabins, they actually have the ship manifest of slave ships to Charleston from 1711 to 1858. And what's very interesting about it is you can see the total number of slaves that embarked, and you can see the total number of slaves that disembarked. And usually that's a big difference, meaning that they died on board. This kind of shows you in real proof how, you know, horribly unsanitary and just crowded and very dangerous and unhealthy these slave ships really were. Okay guys, this was Charleston, South Carolina. Now I had an amazing time showing you guys this beautiful and historic city. I mean, the subtropical vegetation with the colonial architecture and all the shopping and the restaurants and the dining and just the historic significance of this place really is inspiring and makes it a fantastic destination. Listen guys, if you like this kind of content, please subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video, share this video, and let me know any questions that you may have about traveling to Charleston, or if you have any suggestions or things that I missed. Okay guys, until next time, take care. Bye.